Hello everyone and welcome. Today we're joined by Eva and Maggie and we're going to be discussing how to apply for Polish citizenship. Over to you, Eva.
Thank you, Stephanie, and hello, Maggie. Maggie, I'm excited because I'm speaking to you again about Polish citizenship, which is your area of expertise. We want to know from you today, Maggie, how does one apply for Polish citizenship?
Well, first of all, we have to assess what specific person is eligible for. And after we know that, we'll have to go through to the process of tracing documentation to support applicants' application. So we have to find documentation which was issued in Poland, which proves that their ancestors were Polish citizens. So documentation like Polish passport, army records, prove that they were voting in the elections. Only citizens were able to do that, so that documentation will be sufficient to prove they were citizens. After we have all documentation, which takes a little bit of time to trace that, I just made it very short. After we have all the documentation, we can start building the application. We're submitting documentation together with the application. Everything has to be made in hard copies. So we'll need the original, so we'll need certified copies. We might need some extra certification on some foreign documentation. Like for example, from US, some documentation might require apostilles, which is just extra level of the certification to prove it's actual authentic documents. We might need some documentation from United States to prove when ancestors naturalized, if they served in the army, that kind of information. Also vital records leading from the Polish ancestor to the customer, just to show the connection. And all of that together is being lodged by one of our lovely, my lovely co-workers from Poland. It's being lodged in the institution in Warsaw. And from that point, we are just waiting for a decision. Polish government can get back to us with some questions, which we have to address. If they need some extra documentation, that's something which we have to do as well. Yeah, but apart of that, we're just waiting for a decision.
Beautiful. So thank you for that clear and succinct explanation. So there was a couple of things I wanted to add there. One is that everything we submit to the Polish government is in the Polish language. I am forever surprised that people are surprised about that because, you know, Polish is the national language of Poland. So we fill in all the forms in the Polish language. We work with our sworn translators to ensure that everything's translated. And everything goes into the office, which is called the Voivodeship office in Warsaw for people that were not born in Poland in hard copy. Because Poland does not do electronic submissions, although they're trying this new system out, which might facilitate some of it being electronic. But generally speaking, everything goes in hard copy to the Voivodeship office in the Polish language. And often I also get questions about working through a Polish consulate. And of course, it's a pathway that people can choose. But what happens if you do file through the Polish consulate sometimes, Maggie?
Well, you're just adding another bureaucracy point to your process. So you might find that just simply a bit challenging and difficult. And if the person does not speak Polish or don't have a medium level of Polish, they will struggle in a lot, basically, because like you mentioned, the whole application has to be written in Polish. So you have to have that knowledge. And yeah, I don't think Polish consulate have any specific knowledge in terms of legislation, so you not necessarily will receive any instructions. They might have a list of documentation which you can submit on the website, but they're not gonna build the application for you. They're not gonna tell you, oh, you have to submit naturalization papers or some army records. We need that clarification because that specific legislation states something like this. So you're not gonna receive the assistance. They are just there to take your application and send it to Poland. So that's the difference.
Right. So they essentially act as an agent and they will give you some information that's pretty basic. And the other thing you do need to have, even if you do file the application through the Polish consulate, you need to have a representative in Poland to receive any correspondence from the Voivodeship office, which is the processing body. So, some people prefer for us to do the heavy lifting, and we know how to navigate the system quite well in that, we've processed thousands of applications, and, we've been doing this work for about 20 years. When we file our applications, we try and make them as complete as we can, because you did mention, Maggie, there that the Polish government sometimes asks for more information, more documents. We try and avoid the situations. Why? Would you be able to tell us why we try and complete the application as much as we can at the outset?
Well, it is better to prevent the questions. First of all, it's extending the timeline. And second, you just don't want them to question anything. You don't want to have any issues with application. So you want to prevent any questions, build the application as best as you can. So you would not delay anything, and there would not be any concerns from their side. You're just receiving positive decision.
And Maggie, how long does it take on average to get an application approved from the day that we file it to the day that we receive it?
Well, from the day when we file it, I'm guessing it's about 2 or 3 months. If we will count all that period where customer is sending documentation, we have to do our work, that would take around 6-7 months. So together with all our work, it is roughly that much. But the Polish government, I'm fairly confident they're assessing that within 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, if all the documentation are submitted, then it's a quick process, although they process about 15,000 applications annually, and they only have a few staff members. So, delays happen at their end, but also delays happen at our end, where, we've experienced, for example, in the last 2 years, a lot of delays with the American government. And, a lot of clients are frustrated, not with the Polish government at all, because it's nothing to do with them. They're just asking for certain documents. And it's other governments that kind of drag their feet or are quite inefficient. So for those that are listening, the fastest application we've ever had processed was in a day. And we actually put somebody on a plane from Australia to go to Poland. It was a very urgent situation of a child that was 7 years old, and we had to rescue them from a war zone, a long story that I'll tell you another time. But we basically went and begged, and they were so moved, the Polish government was so moved with the situation that they approved it on the same day. I think we went to collect it the next day. But the longest is probably 10 years. And again, nothing to do with us, I guess, although we ultimately responsible, I guess, on behalf of our clients. But the delays happen because of documentation and, floods and all kinds of things where documentation went missing, or incorrect information that we start off with, or, clients taking a break. They're like, I can't deal with this anymore. I'll get back to you next year, whatever. But we are very persistent and very, patient with the process. So, on average, I guess what you summarize is about 8 to 12 months. I guess that's what we're saying, yeah?
Yes, it depends if we're doing research, and basically it depends from the complexity of the process as well. So I would assess that on case-by-case basis rather than, generally it can take up to 1 year, I guess.
Right. And I think just tell us in terms of research that you've mentioned. So sometimes, a lot of the time, people come to us because they have no documentation whatsoever, right? And
yes.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, I want to say that most of the people won't have documentation because, as you can imagine, their ancestors left in very difficult circumstances very often. If that was during the Second World War, during communist times, so they were not thinking about taking the documentation with them. They were forced to leave. So because of that, we have to trace everything for our customers, which is an amazing journey for them and for us as well, to discovering all of that documentation. But it does take time, especially if ancestors coming from the region which is no longer part of Poland. So for example, it can belong to Belarus or Ukraine. So it can be a little bit challenging to deal with the institutions.
Yeah.
But we have a very good researcher, native Ukrainian speaker, and she's doing such an amazing job. I'm sure it's very challenging for her, but I guess as a native speaker, she also understands the mentality. So perhaps it is a bit easier for her to do that.
Yeah, no, and it is. And I think for some people, they start with so very little. They might not even know, the name of their grandfather, let's say, or the place they come from, or the spelling of the name, or the date of birth. So we really behind the scenes, investigate the family history and piece everything together. It's sometimes like a massive puzzle, and the journey can take you into all kinds of nooks and crannies. And you might discover all kinds of secrets and things that you didn't know about your family along the way. But really, the research is focused towards getting documents together to enable you to apply for citizenship, right?
Yes, correct. So we need to trace the documentation to support the application. So that's the pure reason. Some people decide to do that for sentimental reasons. So they just want to know a little bit more about their family. But our main purpose is just to do that for citizenship.
And Maggie, I have only one other question for you, and that is, how do people get in contact with you?
So usually they get in to our website, finding details there. They can fill out the form, which will assess the eligibility. Or if you like, there will be my email address in the comments under this link, under this video, so you can reach out to me directly.
Maggie, thank you for your time. It's put me, your smiley face has put me in a very good mood. And anyone that wants to find out more, learn about their eligibility, please contact Maggie. She not only is a historian, but this work is her passion, I should say. So she'll answer all your questions and give you answers to your questions about eligibility.
Yes,
okay.
Definitely.
Thanks for your time, Maggie.
Thank you so much, Eva.
Bye.
Bye.